Hello everybody, this is Chris Mackey and this is your 21st tutorial on Honeybee energy simulation, and it is the second one in which we're going to be working with schedules, with these things that you see visualized right here. These schedules, which are basically what are used to multiply our loads that we set a couple videos back. They multiply them on an hour by hour basis to actually give us well, in this case, the amount of lighting in my parents' house here, which you can see in the 3D model. So all right, so we're going to be in this one. Well, all right, we visualized schedules in the last one by sort of pulling out all the schedules for the mid-rise apartment that we've assigned to my parents' house here, or have been assigned based on the program, and we visualize them through the 3D chart and through this component that converts the schedule to numbers. But now I think we've done our part with kind of visualizing schedules and seeing what has been assigned. And now I think let's create some of our own schedules in here. So all right, so I'm actually going to I'm going to delete out all the stuff we did in the last video. That was just to kind of show you guys what's already set. And in this video, we're going to be just working with this one, which is used. I mean, you see, you can plug in things for occupancy schedules and all of these different possible schedules that you can change. And it's the same sort of logic as we said before of passing Honeybee zones through this, and then you get out Honeybee zones with different properties that we can then go and plug into our component that runs the energy simulation for us. All right, and I should say also that schedules, like especially the method for creating your own schedules that we're going to show you in this video, it is particularly important to being very creative with your energy simulations in your Energy Plus simulations, because really, if you control schedules, you can apply them to a lot of different things. You can do things like making a dynamic shading system. Or trying to have, I know my parents used to put up awnings in the summer. You can make a schedule for putting up awnings and shading. You can make a schedule, in the last one we saw with the lighting schedule that was used in the apartment, that it didn't really take into account the fact that there was daylight already, in certain parts of the year. So you can make schedules, and you guys might actually even already know that you get out of DaySim a CSV schedule that you can plug into the lighting schedule input right here. And I mean, you could do incredible crazy things. So we're going to cover two specific types of schedules in this video, and I imagine that in the future we'll have a bunch more for some of those uses that I just said, for daylighting and for shading. But specifically, we're going to make a custom schedule for occupancy. So right now it's just using a default occupancy schedule for the apartment, which we saw in the last video just had, people arriving in the apartment after they came home from work at 5 p.m. and they left in the morning around like 6:37 or so. So we're going to change that in this one. We're going to change it because I know my parents' actual schedule. And maybe while in early design it was okay to sort of take the default occupancy schedule, when I know exactly what the occupants are going to do in the space, that's when I want to create my own schedule. So we'll do that, and then we'll do another schedule that kind of that will plug into this infiltration that we'll actually use to mimic natural ventilation, at least for your simulations. So all right, so we'll be using a lot of native Grasshopper components in this to build these schedules from the start. So the thing that allows you to do this in crazy, awesome creation of schedules is this component that's called the Honeybee Create CSV schedule. And so I'm going to just drag and drop the Honeybee Create CSV schedule onto the canvas. And you'll see that it's a pretty simple component. All that it needs is a stream of values. And typically these will be a stream of 8,760 values. So you have a value for each hour of the year. And then, or it can be less than that if you have a schedule for a specific analysis period. And then you just set a Boolean to true to write a CSV file. And this will be actually a CSV schedule, what comes out of here, that you can then plug into this component here. All right, so let's do that. Let's create a schedule for the occupancy of my parents in this house. So all right, so one of the easy ways to do that, because we have to make a full schedule of 8,760 values, there are a lot of native Grasshopper math components that will sort of help you out with this. Maths and sets, that's the other really important one. So all right, so there's one component in here in one of these two tabs. Actually, I can't remember which one. But here it is, duplicate data. And this will really be our good friend for creating our own custom schedule with this, for creating a bunch of, copies of values and such. So all right, so let's say we want to make a schedule for the typical workday. So we can do that pretty easily by just bringing up a panel by typing a quotation mark. And I'm just going to put a 0 value in it for the start. But then I'm going to right click on this panel and turn it into multi-line data, which basically just means that now it's a list of values. Now we can write in lists of values here. And so I'm going to make a schedule for essentially that accurately captures what my parents are doing in this space on a 24-hour basis. All right, so starting at 1 a.m. At 1 a.m. we get a fractional value of 1, which is that saying that both my parents are in the space. And that's the case because at 1 a.m. they're both sleeping in the house, so they're both there. So I'm going to do a 1, for the first, 1, 2, 3, 4, first 5 hours of the day. Actually, and probably, first 6 hours of the day. So all the way to like 6 a.m. But then I know that my dad will usually leave for work pretty early. So then we're going to drop it down. Then it's just my mom left. So we're going to do 0.5 from then on. Because then it's just going to be my mom sort of, starting her day and getting ready there. And maybe she's in the house for like a couple of hours or so. But then, and then she's got things to do. So she leaves, well, I guess we should say a couple hours. So that will bring us up to 8 a.m. And then let's see, then we've got 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and noon, where, maybe no one's in the house so much. But at a certain time, my mom will come back, for a few hours. So that brings us to 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And then my dad tends to work pretty late. So, it's probably not going to be until like about 7 p.m. when he comes back. And let's see, 7 and then 8 and then 9 and then 10 and then 11. And that should be, let me make sure that I've got the right number of values here. I'm just going to plug this into a data component and hover over it. So 23 values. Actually, I guess we should probably have 24. There should be one more at the end of this. Okay. All right. And so this is roughly, what I know from my parents, what the schedule that they might follow on a typical weekday. So I could take this schedule and I could plug this into the duplicate data component. And you see I can specify a number of times to duplicate. And the default is 2. But, there are 5 work days in a given week. So I'm going to duplicate it 5 times to now turn this schedule of just 23 values, 24 values. Whoops, I didn't mean to cut that. I meant to copy and then paste so that, I can show you guys what we get out of this now. So now we get out a list that is effectively duplicated, that has 5 times those numbers that are just being duplicated over and over again for each day, each of the 5 work days. And now let's see, so that'll be our kind of work day schedule. Now we need a weekend schedule. All right, so let's see, what do my parents usually do on weekends? Let's see. They're mostly home all the way, I would say, until till 8 a.m. And then maybe they leave the house for a little bit. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe my dad does some gardening for a little bit. And then the rest of the day, it's just my mom and my dad in the house. All right, so this seems pretty, so maybe they're going out to church or something around that time on a typical weekend. And I should just make sure, 24 values. All right, so they're both in the house, they leave for church, do some errands, my dad goes outside, does some gardening, and then they're both in the rest of the day. So all right, so we've got, and this one will just duplicate twice for some weekends. And so now I can take these values and use, let's see, and I'm going to combine them together into one list. So I'm just going to bring up a normal data, Grasshopper data component by searching there. And so I'll take my weekday values and then the weekend values. And now we should get a list that's 168 values that is effectively for the whole week, with these schedules that I've made right here. Okay, and now we need to duplicate the number of weeks in order to be the number of weeks in a year, which is roughly 52, I think. So all right. So I'm going to take again this, Control C, Control V, this duplicate data. And now I'm going to plug in this list for the whole week. And now I will duplicate this 52 times. But as we know also that, it won't work out quite as much at first. But now we have 8,736 values. So almost 8,760. We will need to add a few more to this. But effectively right now we have a list of values that is almost for the whole year. And so 36, we're just missing 760. We're just missing a single 24-hour period. And given that, we know the last one in this is going to be a weekend schedule, all that we have to do now is add a weekday schedule after this. All right, so I'm going to do that right now by making another data component. And then I'm going to plug in the data that we have here after the duplicate data, and then just plug in the weekend schedule to go at the end of that. Holding Shift, by the way. Sorry, I should have said that there. I held down Shift and then connected it so that I get both of them. And now when we plug this into here, whoa, okay, well, I guess actually I probably should have flattened this first, because you see what that dotted line means is that there are two separate lists. So there's a separate list for that, and so we don't necessarily want that. We want to flatten all the data so that it's 0, and so we just add them on top of each other. So I'm going to flatten this, and now we should have something. Now this should be 8,760 values. Now we've got a schedule of occupancy for literally for the whole year here for my parents in their house that I know is informed by the schedules that my parents usually have. So all right, so now is the magic moment where we take these values, take these data values, and we'll plug them into the values of the CSV component. And you'll see, it takes a few seconds because it's just doing a check for us. And now all that we have to do is just set a Boolean toggle to true, hook that up to there, and this component will effectively in the background, it's going to write out a CSV schedule that Energy Plus understands with these values. And then we can assign that CSV schedule to literally to any zones that we want with the component that I showed you up above. So all right, to kind of show you exactly what we're getting out of this, and just so you guys are aware, it's a CSV, file paths, and you guys can go and find this file in your computer, where it wrote out this CSV schedule. But at last, we're ready to take this schedule, and I'll move this over here, take this schedule, and we can plug this into the occupancy schedule of the zones. And now with this magic component here in the CSV schedule, it's going to assign that occupancy to all of the zones in the house effectively. So that's essentially how you do that. And you can see now it's actually now when it prints out the schedules, you see each one of these has been changed to that file address of CSV. And Energy Plus will go and find that CSV when it pulls together the energy simulation, when we finally connect these Honeybee zones up to our run simulation up here. So all right, so I showed you how we can make a custom occupancy schedule. I'm going to show you one other cooler way of possibly making certain types of schedules. And this will be if we wanted to, if we say we wanted to, my parents were getting rid of an air conditioning or something, and we just want the house to rely on opening of windows in order to cool itself. And so there are a few ways to do this in Energy Plus, but I'm going to show you a simple one now, and I kind of like it because it can give you kind of full control over the schedule. So the first step in this is that we'll use effectively the infiltration value here. In order to boost up, we'll put in an infiltration value here, which essentially is the flow rate of air that will get through the house when all the windows are open. So all right, so I'm going to put in something for that right now, and you see right now it's a very small value because the house is typically sealed up tight. So it's 0.0002, and I'm going to boost that up to something much higher. Maybe like 0.25, and the units of this are liters per second per square meter of floor area in the house. And I'm going to connect this up to here, and so that's, as you guys remember in the past videos where we first went over the loads, this is a way that you're effectively, you're changing the loads so that, essentially what it's doing right now is it's putting a bunch of cracks into all of the parts of the house that lets all this air flow through at this high rate of 0.25 liters per second per square meter of floor area. But the thing is, I mean, but the reality is now with a schedule, a custom schedule that we're going to make, we're going to ensure that this value only happens at certain times when it's really warm outside. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that right after. Okay, all right. So it took a few seconds to assign it to the zones there. But you can see, yeah, now that infiltration is boosted up to this value. So, all right, so let's make a schedule that is based on the outside temperature. And you guys already know from working with Ladybug in the past that I could just import the EPW file here and get that outdoor temperature. So all right, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go over to Ladybug and drag and drop the Ladybug import EPW component, and I'm going to hook up the EPW file here, and so that'll give it a few seconds. That'll bring in the dry bulb temperature for every single hour of the year. And then I can use the native Grasshopper math components to essentially say, I'll show you in a second. So first, you guys know, you guys are probably experts at Ladybug from, if you're up to using Honeybee like this. But you know that we get string values and then values for temperature for every hour of the year. So if we want to do any sort of math calculations, we have to separate the data. And for that, there's a special little component here, this Ladybug separate data, that's under the extra tab of Ladybug. And if you guys just drag and drop that onto your canvas and hook up the dry bulb temperature, you guys know that that separates the numbers in the list from the text strings, from that header. And so now we have just the numbers. Now we can do mathematical operations on it using the Grasshopper math components. So maybe we want to make a schedule where we say, like, anytime the outside temperature is greater than 20 degrees Celsius, open the windows of my family's home. So all right, so I'm going to take this greater than component, this larger than component that's native in the maths tab of Grasshopper, and I'm going to drag and drop that onto the canvas, and I can just plug in the numbers to this list into the A part, and then for the B part, is the value that I want to say everything is larger than. So I said 20 degrees Celsius. So I'm just going to draw up a panel that has a 20 in it. And I'm going to connect it to there. And then what you guys will see will come out of this greater than thing, is that you get a list of true false values that are effectively saying, is the outside temperature above 20 degrees C or not? And you see in the middle of the summer, like, you get a lot of trues, but in the beginning of the year in January, there's a lot of falses. And so this is something that you guys can use to create a schedule off of this. Because Boolean values like this, these true-false values, are nothing more than mere integers. I mean, they're mere binary values. I mean, you guys would probably know that if you know about computers, and that everything's binary underneath the whole thing. So we can actually convert these true-false values to binary just by bringing up an integer, a native Grasshopper integer component, and just plugging in the true-false values into that. And then you'll see out of it now we get a stream of zeros and ones that are effectively exactly the type of thing that we can put into a CSV schedule. So that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to move this up here, guys, and I'm going to copy our component, our CSV schedule component, and I'll copy the file address too. So Control-C, Control-V. And just give it a sec, because actually, I was rewriting the whole sort of file there, and I didn't necessarily want it to do that. And actually, probably for this, it'd be a good idea to give this a different schedule name. So you guys will notice if you start having multiple schedules, like, it defaults to unnamed. And you probably, if you want to start having multiple schedules for different things, I would really suggest start naming them. So all right, let's see. We'll call this infiltration schedule. Infiltrations, or sked, and that's good enough by my standards. And we'll plug that in for the schedule name, and now this is gonna write a CSV with those old values in there. But now we'll take these integer values that we got from this larger than calculation. We'll take those and we'll plug those into the values there. And now we're getting out a CSV file of a schedule that effectively has these values in it for when we want the windows open or not. And this CSV schedule we'll take and we'll plug in all the way down here to our infiltration schedule on our component, on our set EP schedule component. So now effectively, if you guys can understand how these two components work in tandem now, what's happening is that it's going to only apply that infiltration, all that airflow into the space, only based on when there's a 1 in the list in this infiltration schedule there. And so that effectively is one way to try to start to account for natural ventilation in the building. And so you see that, yeah, so the infiltration schedule has been changed there to the CSV. And we know anytime it's a 1, it's going to be 0.25 liters per second of flow. And I mean, and you guys could obviously, you can get better fractional values if you did more math that accounted for wind speed or accounted for the areas of these openings. And, you know, you can get something much more accurate than just like assuming that you're able to get up to this airflow rate if, you know, whenever the temperature is that outside. But you know what, for like our rough energy simulation purposes, this is good enough for us for right now. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and say that we've now got something that's pretty close to what I'd imagine my parents having in their house. So now we can plug in these modified Honeybee zones into our energy simulation, and now the next time we run that simulation, now it's going to be using that natural ventilation in the periods that we want based on the schedule up here. And, you know, and it will be applying that occupancy schedule based on what we created here. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I mean, if this was a good presentation, your mind should be starting to churn about all the different types of schedules you can make and all the different creative ways that you can apply them. And there'll be more. We'll show you some of those in the later videos, I think. I'll at least show you a shading one so you guys can start to get excited about that. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next video.